Thank you for accessing this online parents briefing about the Slough Consortium 11+ examination. My name is John Constable and I'm the head teacher of Langley Grammar School. However, in this presentation I'm speaking on behalf of all 4 grammar schools in the Consortium. The aim of this presentation is to help you to understand the 11+ testing process as it operates in Slough. The information provided relates to the 11+ examination in September 2023, which is for entry to Year 7 in September 2024. During the presentation, I will cover the topics listed here. Please note that the purpose of this presentation is to tell you about the 11+ examination system in Slough, but not about the individual admissions policies of the 4 grammar schools. The information in this presentation is also summarised in a guide to the 11+ booklet, which can be found on the websites of each of the Consortium grammar schools. The 4 grammar schools in Slough operate a consortium for the purposes of 11+ testing. The schools are Herschel Grammar School, Langley Grammar School, St Bernard's Catholic Grammar School and Upton Court Grammar School. The schools use a common 11+ examination and administer it according to common procedures. A child therefore sits just one 11+ examination, irrespective of how many of the 4 grammar schools parents may eventually apply to. Each school has a dedicated admissions officer, and all 4 will work closely together as a team to ensure that the process of testing is as efficient and consistent as possible across the 4 schools. The current school admissions code was introduced in 2021 and applies to all applications for school places this autumn. There is also a separate code which relates to admissions appeals. The admissions code is a legally binding set of regulations that schools must follow to ensure that admissions are fair and equitable. One of the most significant aspects of the code for grammar schools is the requirement that results of selection tests must be made available to parents before the final deadline for submission of the Common Application Form. This is designed to allow parents to make an informed choice of schools based on the outcomes of those examinations. I'm now going to describe the whole testing and application process, which involves a number of steps. I will come back and expand on some of those steps later in the presentation. If you are thinking of applying to one or more of the 4 grammar schools in Slough as a choice for your child, the first step is to register to take the 11+ entrance exam for the consortium. To do this, you must complete the online registration form, which can be accessed from a link on any of the websites of the 4 consortium grammar schools. The details supplied will be held on a central database, and it doesn't matter which website you access the form through. If you've had a child go through the testing system in recent years, please note that we moved to a new software system and database last year, so it will look different to the one you may remember from previous years. The only purpose of registration is to enable your child to sit the 11+ test, and the consortium will order one set of test papers for your child. Please ensure that you complete the registration process for the Slough Consortium just once. If you enter your child for the examination and then change your mind, please inform the admissions officer at any of the 4 grammar schools. There is a lot of administration involved in organising the 11+ test, and the papers are expensive. We will acknowledge your registration and communicate with you by email, so it is essential that you supply a valid email address and also notify us if that address changes for any reason. Please make sure you enter your email address on the registration form accurately. We want to emphasise that registering for the test is not in any way an application for a place at a particular school. It is not even an expression of interest in any particular school. At this stage, you are simply asking for your child to sit the Consortium 11+ examination. On the basis of the results of that test, you may choose to apply to one or more grammar schools or none at all. The second step is for your child to actually sit the 11+ entrance examination. All pupils, whatever their home address and current primary school, will be invited to sit the test at one of 4 testing centres on the same day in September. Each grammar school will act as a testing centre for several hundred pupils. At the point of registration, you'll be able to indicate your preference for a testing centre, but this is a preference only and cannot be guaranteed. You'll be sent details of your test centre and the test arrangements by email before the end of the summer term, using the email address you have provided on the registration website. This information will be sent again in early September. Your child will be invited to a specific morning or afternoon session, and this cannot be changed. The third step is that you will receive the results of the 11 Plus examination in October, so that you have time to consider the implications for your choice of schools. And then, having thought carefully about which schools to apply for and your order of preference, you then complete the common application form by the end of October. You must include any grammar school for which you wish your son or daughter to be considered, and you must place grammar schools higher in your order of preference than non-selective schools if your priority is for your child to attend a grammar school. This is because non-selective schools generally have admissions criteria based on distance from the school, and you will be allocated the highest ranked school for which your child is eligible. The local authority provides each of the 4 schools with a list of children who have named the school on the common application form. However, we are not told where the school has been placed in their order of preference. Each school will then rank their applicants in order by applying the oversubscription criteria from their own admissions policy. Slough Local Authority will then allocate each child a place at the school which is highest on the common application form and for which they're eligible. Where a pupil can be placed at more than one school, the offer will be for the highest ranked school where places are available. If you live outside Slough, Slough Local Authority will pass the information to your home local authority. The home local authority then writes to all parents to notify them of the allocation of school places. This is coordinated across the country so that all allocations are notified on the same day. That's the 1st of March or the first working day afterwards if that falls at a weekend. Grammar schools are their own admissions authorities, and this means the formal offer of a place comes from the grammar school itself and will be confirmed as soon as possible after the national allocation day. You must confirm acceptance of the place to both your local authority and the grammar school, or the school may assume you're no longer interested and offer the place to another child. If you do not wish to accept the place, you should notify the school of this. Now, some parents who live in Slough may be considering applying to one of the 2 grammar schools in Reading, as well as one or more of the Slough Consortium grammar schools. Please note that previous arrangements where some schools use the same test as the Slough Consortium no longer apply. In Reading, Kendrick School, which is for girls, and Reading School, which is for boys, now use different testing procedures to Slough, and there is no facility for sharing 11 plus scores between the schools anymore. There are a number of grammar schools around the London area, all of which have different arrangements for testing. As there are only 2 or 3 weekends in the early autumn term on which it's possible to run 11 plus tests, there will inevitably be schools running tests on the same day. If you are wanting your child to sit 11 plus tests at schools where there is a date clash, this is unfortunate, but the reality is that you will have to choose which school or schools, and therefore which tests, to prioritise. There are usually no opportunities to take the test at a later date because of clashes. In the Slough Grammar Schools, we take the view that we are here primarily to serve the interests of children already living in Slough and those living in the immediate surrounding areas. The key dates for the process are shown here. Registration for the 11 plus examination opened on Thursday the 27th of April and must be completed by 10 AM on Monday the 12th of June. This is an absolute deadline. Late applications will not be accepted after this date unless there are absolutely exceptional circumstances. The 11 plus tests are scheduled to take place on Saturday the 16th of September at 4 test centres in Slough. The tests then have to be marked and the results standardised by the test provider. You will be notified of the results of the 11 Plus test in mid-October. Now in practice, this is unlikely to be before the 20th of October due to the volume of testing for which the test provider is responsible. The deadline for submission for the Common Application Form is Tuesday the 31st of October. This is a national deadline applicable across the country. We are very aware that there's relatively little time between receiving the 11 Plus results and the closing date for the Common Application Form. We would encourage you to have done your thinking in advance by visiting the schools you're interested in and thinking through how your order of preference might change under different circumstances. For example, thinking through what you might do in each case if your child scored below 111, achieved a high score, or had a borderline mark. Please remember that schools do not know how many applications they will receive, so they will not be able to say what your chances of gaining a place are. All we can do is tell you what would have happened last year to a child who achieved that particular score and lived in that particular area. Lastly, you'll be notified which school your son or daughter has been allocated to on the 1st of March 2024. Again, this is a national date. I'm now going to provide you with some more detail about the 11 Plus examination itself. The Consortium 11 Plus test provider is GL Assessment. We do not use CEM, the Centre for Evaluation and Monitoring, anymore. CEM has now ceased providing 11 Plus testing. However, the test itself still consists of 2 separate papers. One paper will test verbal skills, a combination of verbal reasoning and English. The other paper will test non-verbal reasoning and mathematics. Each paper takes approximately 60 to 65 minutes to complete, and there are some familiarization questions on each paper. Instructions will be given using a common script on an audio file, so all candidates will be treated in exactly the same way wherever they sit the test. Questions on both papers have a range of answer formats. Pupils indicate their answers on a separate answer sheet, which is marked by an optical mark reader and computer and must therefore be filled in exactly as directed in the instructions. Please refer to the familiarization information which you can find on the Consortium schools' websites for examples of the question and answer format. Extra time is available for pupils with recognised special educational needs. This is up to 25% for each paper. The registration form has a section for you to advise the Consortium if additional time is required, as it must be notified in advance. Professionally supported evidence will be required. A general rule would be that if your child regularly receives additional time to complete assignments in school, or would be eligible for additional time for the Year 6 SATS papers, then they may be eligible for additional time in the 11 Plus tests. There may also be other reasons for access arrangements or special consideration, for example, a medical condition, visual impairment, or physical handicap. Any requests for special consideration must be provided when you register for the test. The papers are marked and then moderated by the test provider GL Assessment. They are not marked by the schools. Standardization is then carried out. This is a statistical procedure whereby the raw scores, that's the number of questions answered correctly, are converted to standardized scores to make it fair for candidates of all ages. The standardization process takes into account how a child has performed compared to the average of all the children taking the test in the consortium, and how the child has performed compared to children of the same age in years and months. It is a statistically complex procedure, but it results in a fair score for all children, whether they were born on the 1st of September, the 15th of February, or the 31st of August. Children do not have marks added because they're born in August or taken away if they have a September birthday. It isn't as simple as that. Standardisation also means that it is possible for children to achieve a high score whilst getting some questions wrong or failing to complete all the questions on the test. Here are the most commonly asked questions about the test itself. Firstly, are there practice papers available? Well, there are no specific practice papers produced for the Slough Consortium tests. However, some general familiarisation material produced by GL Assessment will be available from the school's websites. And GL Assessment itself publishes various packs of papers which may have similar styles or questions. Secondly, are calculators or dictionaries allowed? No, they're not. These are tests of mental ability. Pupils need only a pencil and a rubber. What if my child is ill on the test day? If your child is ill on the test day, you should contact the test centre as soon as possible. There will be somebody at the test centre you can talk to and explain the circumstances. Please do not let your child sit the examination if they are unwell. Alternative arrangements will be made for your child to sit the test at a later date if they have been ill. However, supporting medical evidence, such as a doctor's note, may be required in the event of illness. Similarly, please do not let your child sit the test if there has been a family trauma of any sort immediately prior to the test date. This is a very common question. What is the pass mark? Now, in Slough, we don't refer to a pass mark as such. The 11 plus test is designed to identify approximately the top third of the pupils who take it. A standardised score of 111 or above means that your child falls within this range, and we would consider them potentially suitable for the kind of grammar school education we offer across the 4 schools in Slough. They are therefore eligible to be considered for a place in a grammar school if they were to apply. And the score of 111 is often referred to as the eligibility score. Now, if a grammar school is oversubscribed, in other words, it has more actual applicants than places available, then the places will be offered according to the criteria set out in the individual school's admissions policy. Meeting the eligibility score of 111 in itself is therefore not a guarantee of a place. You should be aware that the 4 grammar schools have different criteria under which they will offer places if they are oversubscribed. This may involve offering places in rank order of score, according to distance from the school, according to the postcode where you live, or some other criteria. You must check the admissions policy of each school carefully and address any questions you may have to the school concerned. Now I'm going to give you some more details about the process of applying for schools. The Common Application Form, sometimes just simply called the CAF, is available from the start of September and is normally completed online. If you live in Slough, you can follow the Slough Borough Council website, and if you live outside Slough, check the Education or Schools section of your own local authority website. Your child's primary school should also alert you to the process for application and how to find the CAF. When you complete your Common Application Form, you will receive a unique login, and you can change your preferences of schools right up to the deadline for submission. You can also log in to see your child's allocation on the 1st of March. If you live in Slough, you can list up to 6 choices of schools on the Common Application Form. However, other areas do differ, so check carefully if your child attends a Slough primary school but you actually live outside the borough of Slough. On the Common Application Form, you must state all the state schools you wish to apply to, including grammar schools both in and outside your own local authority area. The address that you give on the form must be your permanent address on the closing date of the 31st of October, and you can be asked by the local authority for proof of this address. Your preferences should then be placed on the Common Application form in rank order. If you are selecting grammar schools, you must therefore place them at the top of your list in your preferred order. When places are offered, local authorities will make offers to eligible pupils using the stated admission criteria for each school. It is therefore very important to find out the particular admission requirements for each school in which you are interested, particularly to ensure that you are eligible in terms of where you live. These admission requirements will be published by the schools on their websites and may also be published separately by your local authority. Slough Local Authority will coordinate the allocation process for all schools in Slough. If you live outside Slough, you must still make your application for schools through your own local authority, even if your child currently attends a Slough school. Your home local authority would then send the application information through to Slough Borough Council. All preferences for schools are considered using the oversubscription criteria for each school. And where a pupil can be placed at more than one school, the allocation you receive will be for the highest ranked school on your Common Application form where places are available. Now, there is a lot of misunderstanding about the Common Application form and the order in which you should place schools on it. Sometimes you will find misleading or incorrect information being passed around, particularly online. Make sure you take your information only from the schools themselves or from Slough Borough Council's admissions team. It is essential that you place the schools on the Common Application form in your genuine order of preference. If you place a non-selective school above a grammar school on the Common Application form, the local authority will assume that that's your preferred choice. If your child was eligible for both schools, then they would be allocated a place at the non-selective school, as you've ranked that higher and apparently that's your preferred school. In addition, there is no such thing as tactical placing of schools in a particular order, despite what you may occasionally be told or read online. Schools do not know where you place them on the Common Application form. So the advice is quite simple and quite clear. When you put the schools onto the Common Application form, list them in your genuinely preferred order. Now, if your child cannot be offered a place at your first preference school, they will be allocated a lower preference. They will be placed on the waiting list of any school higher up your order of preference, but for which you have not been offered a place. These waiting lists will remain in place until the 31st of December 2024. That's the end of your child's first term in Year 7. After the 1st of March, further rounds of allocations from the waiting lists will be made as places in schools are accepted and rejected. You will not necessarily be consulted about this, as the local authority regard your Common Application form preferences as a set of instructions which they will try and fulfill. So, for example, you may be allocated a place at your third choice school on the 1st of March. Very sensibly, you accept this offer, and your child is placed also on the waiting lists of the two higher preference schools. Perhaps 4 or 5 weeks later, there's another round of allocations. The place at your third preference school disappears, and your child is now allocated their second preference school. This process happens automatically. It's therefore really important that you tell the local authority if you want to be taken off the waiting lists of any higher preference schools. For example, if you change your mind about your order of preference, or you decide you're happy with the allocation that you've received. There is no process to appeal your child's 11+ score. However, As parents, you do have the right to appeal against a decision by a particular school not to admit your child. This means that once your child has been allocated a school place on the 1st of March, you can appeal to the school or schools higher up your order of preference on your common application form that did not offer your child a place. After you've received your school allocation on the 1st of March, you would have a maximum of 20 school days in which to lodge any appeals you wish to make. Appeals are heard on behalf of each school separately by an independent appeals panel, and the appeal hearings must take place within 40 school days of the request being received. To repeat, you cannot appeal the 11+ score itself. There is no mechanism for you to do that. You can only appeal against a specific school's decision not to offer your child a place. There are therefore two possible reasons for an appeal to a grammar school. The first is that your child scored 111 or above on the 11+ test, but due to oversubscription was not offered a place at a school to which you had applied. There were simply more applicants than places available, and after the oversubscription criteria had been applied, your child was not offered a place. The most common reason for this would be that the school was allocating its last places in rank order of score and has cut off at a score higher than that obtained by your child. The second reason is that your child scored below 111 on the 11+ test and was therefore not eligible for consideration. If you are in this position, you may believe that the 11+ score was not a fair reflection of your child's ability. Remember that it is not possible to appeal your child's 11+ score itself. You only have the right to appeal against a decision not to offer you a place. Therefore, if you intend to appeal in the belief that your child did not perform according to their ability in the 11+ test, you must name at least one grammar school on the common application form. This is because you can only appeal against a decision not to admit your child, and that decision can only be made if you actually apply. You should also note that if you do appeal, it could be mid-June before you know whether or not your appeal has been successful. This is some 9 months after your child would have sat the 11+ examination. During the summer term, schools often hold open events where you can visit the school during the normal school day. In the autumn, all 4 grammar schools will hold open events along with all the other secondary schools in Slough. You will need to consult the individual schools for further details. Dates of open events will be given on the school's websites. However, please be aware that the open evening dates for all 4 grammar schools in Slough will be after the 11+ test. We would strongly encourage you to attend open events with your child so that together you can make an informed choice of which school may be appropriate. So to summarise, what should you do next? Firstly, complete the online 11+ registration form. This is now available through the Consortium school websites. Please remember the deadline of Monday, the 12th of June at 10 a.m. for registration. Use the familiarisation material to help your child prepare for the test. In the autumn term, attend open evenings or mornings to help you decide which schools may be right for your child. Make sure you're thoroughly familiar with schools' admissions policies and ensure you understand how schools will allocate places in the event of oversubscription. Also, make sure you know if you have to submit any additional paperwork to schools if you apply to them. And then make an informed choice of appropriate schools and complete the common application form by the 31st of October. Thank you for listening to this presentation. We are very conscious that this is a complicated and potentially confusing process, and if you're going through it for the first time, not everything may be clear to you. If you do have any questions about the testing process, please contact the admissions officers at any of the 4 Consortium grammar schools. You can find their contact details by going to the admissions pages on the individual schools' websites. On behalf of my colleagues from the 4 Slough Grammar Schools, thank you for listening to this briefing, and we wish you well as you navigate your way through the process over the next few months.